the censure. And former President Trump still the leading choice for Republican voters in nearly every major poll right now. And it appears that his legal woes haven't hurt his standing with donors either. The Trump campaign says that getting indicted in Florida has proved lucrative. According to the Trump campaign, it has now brought in $6.6 million since news of that federal indictment came down last Thursday. $4.5 million raised through digital fundraising, $2.1, which he raised shortly after his arraignment at his golf club in Bedminster, New Jersey. The Washington Post says last fall, former President Trump rejected a suggestion he settle the documents dispute with the Justice Department. One of the president's new attorneys, Christopher Kise, made this proposal, and the goal was to persuade Attorney General Merrick Garland not to prosecute Trump over the documents. The article says the former president chose to side with other lawyers who advocated a more combative approach. Attorney General Garland says that he has faith in the integrity of the classified documents investigation, and it was his first public comment since former President Trump called special counsel Jack Smith, quote, a thug and a lunatic. The Attorney General said Smith is an example of his department's commitment to independence and accountability.
Mr. Smith is a veteran career prosecutor. He has assembled a group of experienced and talented prosecutors and agents who share his commitment to integrity and the rule of law.
Michael Starr Hopkins joins us now live. He is a Democratic strategist and president of Northern Star Strategies. Michael, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So, Michael, a few days ago, the nation watched together as a former president was federally indicted. It was a historic and unprecedented moment. First time we ever saw anything like that. What was your reaction?
You know, a lot of people said that it was a sad day for the country. I actually disagree. I think the fact that we are respecting the rule of law, that we're showing that anyone should be held accountable no matter who they are, is an ideal, and it's the foundation our country is built upon. So I thought it was a strengthening of institutions.
What do you make of President Biden's strategy in staying silent right now? I mean, he has instructed the DNC to stay mum on Trump's arraignment. What do you think will happen here? Do you think that this is going to be helpful or maybe hurtful to the Democratic Party as we get closer to the elections?
So I think it's smart for the president to stay above the fray, to continue to be presidential, focus on, executing for the American public. Now, I think the Democratic Party itself, I think Democrats in Congress would be smart to continue to hold Republicans accountable, to tie this around Republicans and ask them if this is something that they really support. I think that's a difference. And I think it's a fine line that Democrats are going to have to walk. But I think if they do it in a smart way, it'll be really effective heading into 2024.
How do you do that? I mean, how do you do that in a smart way? We know that special counsel Jack Smith has reiterated that no one is above the law. Do you think the president should be underscoring the same idea? Should he be underscoring the seriousness of the moment with the nation right now?
Yeah, I think when it comes to comments from the White House, I think no comment is the best comment. And that's not something as a comms professional I would usually say. But I think the president needs to really stay out of this. It needs to not look political. And I think members of Congress, especially Democratic members of Congress, need to repeatedly, every time they're in front of the press, ask the press, do their colleagues, do Republicans really believe that what the president has done, putting our national security at threat, to overthrow a democratic election, is that what they really stand for? You're already starting to see a fracture within the Republican Party, starting to see Republicans talk about, if this is true, then it certainly was a threat to our security. And I think as we move forward, as more facts come out and as, frankly, more indictments happen, it'll be interesting to see how Republicans respond.
Let's talk a little bit more about that fracture that you're witnessing right now inside of the Republican Party. What are you seeing exactly, and how do you think it's going to impact 2024?
So I think what you're seeing is self-preservation. When you have senators and members of Congress who are in swing districts, who are elected in places like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Virginia, North Carolina, states that are up for grabs, you're starting to see them not distance themselves from the president, but hedge their bets. Then you see Republicans who are in solidly red districts, MAGA districts, really double down. I think that's where the danger is going to be, because in the primary, Donald Trump is extremely strong. His numbers are going up. He's fundraising. But when we get to that general election, Donald Trump is going to be underwater in states that he has no choice but to win. In Michigan, in Virginia, in Pennsylvania, states that he lost in 2020. Those are vital. If he doesn't win those states, he will not win re-election. And so I think there's a short-sighted strategy in the fact that Republicans are doubling down in a primary in a way that will cause them to honestly get obliterated in a general election.
I want to talk about poll numbers, and I want to talk about money as well, because Trump's campaign has announced that they were able to fundraise off of the latest indictment news, and so far they brought in $6.6 million. Looking ahead to 2024, let's take a look at some of the latest poll numbers, which show that Trump, as you were saying, is still the #1 Republican candidate for the primary, even after being federally indicted on those 37 criminal counts. What are your thoughts here, Michael? As a challenger, do you still think that President Joe Biden is the best person for the job in 2024? I mean, what could a potential Biden-Trump matchup look like?
So let me say one thing about polls. Right now, what we're seeing is popular vote polls. And so it's not reflective of an actual election. What we need to look at is the state by state numbers. That'll really tell you where the electorate stands. And so when you look at states, once again, I keep mentioning Michigan, Pennsylvania, Virginia, North Carolina. Those are the states that are going to decide the election. And so, yes, Trump may be strong in terms of popular numbers right now, but that's not how we elect a president. And I think that the fact that Joe Biden has been a steady hand, I think the fact that he has been presidential and he has been he hasn't been the chaos and chaotic president that we had in 2016. I think that's what voters are really focusing on. Donald Trump at every turn, it was, an angry tweet. It was, what's he going to do next? How's he going to put the country in turmoil? And people got tired of that. And so I think as Joe Biden continues to be that steady hand, continues to focus on legislation and not chaos, it will help him come 2024.
But do people know that Biden has been the steady hand? Because you were just saying that Trump has been chaos. That chaos has been dominating every news cycle. We know that the former president has now been twice impeached, twice indicted, once at the state level, once federally, which we all just watched together a few days ago. There are still 2 more possible indictments on the horizon. So how do you think this is going to play out? How does this impact not just the race, for Trump, but maybe for every candidate? How does any candidate at this point get any screen time?
Well, and that's the thing about Trump. He sucks all the oxygen out of the room. And so if you're any other candidate trying to get any exposure, it's almost impossible. I mean, look at Ron DeSantis. Donald Trump was in his home state and sucked all of the oxygen out. No one was able to focus on DeSantis, really ask what he thought, because Trump, as soon as he left the court, went down to South Florida and went to that restaurant and then went back to his country club. There's just no way to really compete with Trump when it comes to headlines. And that's going to be the problem for the rest of the field. And I think in the long run, what's going to be the problem for Trump is Republicans are going to look at the House and the Senate, and they're going to look at the races which they could have won if Trump wasn't the nominee, and really reflect on what do we do? Because if we have Trump as the general election nominee, he's not only going to suck all the oxygen out of the room, but he's going to turn off suburban voters, especially as suburban white women voters. African Americans obviously are going to turn out. We saw in 2022 in the midterm elections that the youth vote was historic. And much like we saw in 2020, this is all going to be about turnout. And not every vote is going to be for Joe Biden. There's also going to be a big vote that is anti-Trump voting for Biden. And I think that's kind of the hidden number that we need to remember. There's going to be a lot of people who don't necessarily like Joe Biden, but are voting for him because they're afraid of what Donald Trump would do in a second term.
Michael Starr Hopkins is a Democratic strategist with Northern Star Strategies. Michael, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
In other news at this hour, a scathing 77-page report accusing former United Kingdom Prime Minister Boris Johnson may have deliberately misled the House of Commons about his violations on COVID restrictions. Boris Johnson slamming the investigation during a trip to the United States in late May.
This whole thing is a load of nonsense from beginning to end, and we made that clear in the statements that I've issued.
London correspondent Julie Chapman has the latest on the 14-month investigation on what critics are calling Partygate.
This long-awaited report from the Privileges Committee was not about whether Boris Johnson attended social gatherings during COVID-19 lockdowns. He's already admitted to that and been fined by police. This was all about whether or not he lied about it in Parliament and when he was giving evidence to the Privileges Committee during their inquiry. And the findings are pretty scathing. The members of this committee, most of whom are Conservative MPs like Boris Johnson, they found that not only did he deliberately mislead Parliament and the committee, he did so repeatedly throughout this process. It found that he also breached the confidence of the Privileges Committee when he resigned last week, leaking some of the details that have come out eventually today. They said that he misled Parliament when he said that guidance had been followed, the COVID-19 guidance. It said that was incorrect, and it also found that he misled Parliament when he failed to tell Parliament about breaches of guidance. Now, the committee was adamant that this was not a technical matter. This was about the very foundations of British democracy, saying that democracy depends on members of Parliament and members of the public being able to trust the word of ministers, none more so than the Prime Minister itself. But what can the committee do about this? Well, Boris Johnson has already resigned, so the recommendation that he be suspended from Parliament for 90 days, a really unprecedented sanction, is basically irrelevant, although very much damning. But now he has already voluntarily resigned in advance of the publication of this report. He's giving up his seat in Parliament. But the committee has also recommended that he not be given a parliamentary pass as a former MP. He's entitled to that. The suggestion is he shouldn't be going forward. But is this the end of Boris Johnson? He has made many political comebacks before. Although he has stepped down as a member of Parliament, he may yet try to resurrect his political career. Julia Chapman, Scripps News, London.
And still to come on Scripps News Live, a Virginia school district is denying claims it fired a teacher who was shot by a first grader in class. Plus, the man accused of killing 5 people at a Colorado Springs LGBTQ club is expected to plead guilty today. We'll have new information next.
If you have this, and you get this, you could end up with this. Unexpected out-of-pocket costs, which for those on Medicare or soon to be, is a good reason to take charge of your health care. So consider this: an AARP Medicare Supplement Insurance Plan from United Healthcare. Why? Because Medicare alone doesn't pay for everything. And what it doesn't pay for, like deductibles and copays, could really add up, even thousands of dollars a year. Medicare supplement plans help by paying some of what Medicare doesn't and making your out-of-pocket costs a lot more predictable. Call United Healthcare today and ask for your free decision guide. Learn more about plan options and rates to fit your needs. Now, if you like this, greater freedom, you'll love that Medicare supplement plans have no networks and no referrals needed. See any doctor, any specialist, anywhere in the U.S., as long as they accept Medicare patients. These types of plans also give you more flexibility when traveling in the U.S. Your plan goes with you, anywhere you go in the country. Even better, these are the only plans of their kind, endorsed by AARP. Call United Healthcare today for your free decision guide. So if you have this and want less out-of-pocket costs and more peace of mind, consider adding this, an AARP Medicare Supplement Plan. Take charge of your health care today. Just use this or this to call United Healthcare about an AARP Medicare Supplement Plan.
Attention all business owners. If you had W-2 employees during the COVID-19 pandemic, you may be entitled to up to $26,000 per employee with the Employee Retention Tax Credit. The deadline to file your claims is approaching. Call now to see if your business qualifies. This approved payroll tax refund program from the U.S. Treasury Department is set up to reward business owners who kept employees on payroll during the pandemic. There is no upfront cost to see if your company is eligible. Plus, if you don't receive a refund, you pay nothing. You want a trusted partner who understands the IRS guidelines. ERC advisors are standing by to help your business claim your COVID refund. You may be entitled to up to $26,000 per employee. This quick and easy call can get your business the money it deserves. Don't miss the deadline to file your claims. Just call 800-259-3916. That's 800-259-3916.
The Athletic. Subscribe today.
Digging deeper into the headlines.
We have some big stories to get to tonight.
Shedding light on groundbreaking investigations and ending your night with something new.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Christian Bryant.
Scripps News Tonight. Live tonight, starting at 8/7 Central.
We'd like to hear from you. You can give us a call on our Scripps News viewer hotline toll free. That number's on your screen. It's 1-833-4-SCRIPPS. Feel free to share your comments and your story ideas. The shooter behind a deadly attack at an LGBTQ nightclub in Colorado expected to plead guilty to murder and hate crime charges. It's according to survivors who spoke with the Associated Press, and it would make sure that he serves at least a life sentence. Authorities say the suspect walked inside Club Q in Colorado Springs back in November, started shooting randomly. 5 people were killed, 17 others injured. The shooter is now facing more than 300 state charges. Prosecutors say the weapons supervisor on the Rust film might have been hungover when the cinematographer was shot and killed. Hannah Gutierrez-Reed loaded the live bullet in the gun that killed Helena Hutchins. Witnesses on the set told investigators that they saw Gutierrez-Reed, quote, drinking heavily and smoking marijuana in the evenings during the shooting of the movie Rust. Gutierrez-Reed has pleaded not guilty to an involuntary manslaughter charge. A teacher in Virginia who was shot by one of her students is now pushing back on claims that she resigned. 26-year-old Abigail Zwerner says that the Newport News School District fired her, but the district reportedly has an email from Zwerner in which she says, quote, I wish to resign. Zwerner taught first grade at Newport News until January when her 6-year-old student brought a gun to class and shot her. Michigan State University is expected to face a lawsuit from survivors of February's deadly shooting. 2 students injured in the attack filed notices of intent to sue on Monday, and they claim that the university lacked safety measures. 3 people were killed in the shooting, 5 students were wounded. Scripps News correspondent Stephanie Sandoval has the details on the lawsuit.
Steps to sue Michigan State University after a mass shooting on school grounds are underway. Attorneys for 2 MSU students that were shot but survived the shooting there in February have notified the university on their intent to take negligence claims to court. One of the attorneys says a lawsuit has not been filed yet, but argue that the university failed to protect the students. The gunman shot students Nate Statley and Troy Forbush in a classroom in Berkey Hall. Both continue to face medical complications from their injuries. Lawyers say Statley has sustained severe and permanent injuries and can't speak, walk, or eat solid foods, while Forbush, shot in the chest, is still suffering from lung problems. Legal filings claim the building where they were shot wasn't safe and the gunman had easy access. The lawyers say Michigan State lacked door locks across campus that prevented classrooms to be locked from the inside, and that the campus did not have an adequate video surveillance system.
This is more than being at the wrong place at the wrong time. This could happen anywhere, at any time in this country. This has to end.
In a statement, MSU spokesperson Dan Olson said MSU has been engaged in conversations with the families of those we lost and those injured to identify ways to provide ongoing support, and we are committed to keeping those lines of communication open. The university said earlier this month it has taken steps to bolster campus safety by strengthening its alert systems and installing door locks in classrooms, among other security steps. The gunman who killed 3 MSU students died by suicide. Stephanie Sandoval, Scripps
MSU
News.
has worked on improving security throughout the campus, and the school hopes to complete the projects by the end of the summer. A New York grand jury has indicted the man accused of choking a homeless subway rider to death. Yesterday, a grand jury decided there's enough evidence to try Daniel Penny on manslaughter charges for the death of Jordan Neely. Prosecutors say Penny, a Marine veteran, put Neely in a chokehold last month. He held Neely for more than 3 minutes, eventually killing him. Penny says he was acting in self-defense because Neely was threatening passengers. Now, if convicted, Penny could face 15 years in prison. Straight ahead on Scripps News Live, a Florida deputy springing into action to help rescue 5 children trapped in an overturned van with their mother.
That's all right. You got it.
We have the body camera video of this roadside rescue, plus the driver involved in this terrifying caught-on-camera crash now telling her incredible story. What she thought the moment her car went airborne. That's next.
I was having problems with my legs and my feet.
I suffered a lot of cramps, swelling.
I would dread going up and down steps.
Tingling in my legs due to circulation issues.
The aches and pains have just continued to increase.
Did you know if you have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, or are over 40, your leg aches and pains could be from poor circulation? Revitive can help reduce leg aches and pains, swelling, and cramps. Revitive uses breakthrough technology to get your calf muscles pumping like a second heart to increase blood flow, reducing leg aches and pains, cramps, or swollen feet and ankles.
Plus, it's drug-free.
The cramping was terrible, and I don't get that anymore. Thank you, Revitive.
Revitive is FDA cleared and clinically proven to increase oxygen-rich blood flow during use. The smart stimulation works so well, over 3 million people use Revitive.
As a firefighter, I'm constantly on my feet. I wish I had known about Revitive a lot earlier. It would have made a huge difference in really who I am today.
Revitive has given me a better quality of life because I am living without pain.
Revitive reduces leg pains 2 times more than exercise alone in just 6 weeks.
We want to take walks. We want to do more social activities, just the typical things in life that I did not feel well enough before Revitive that I was able to do.
Yeah, Revitive is regenerizing my legs and making me feel like, let's do more.
Go to Revitive.com now to learn how Revitive can help reduce leg aches and pains, swelling, and cramps.
The doctor said, go for it. And I'm in the best shape in terms of my legs and my ankles and my feet than I've ever been.
Try Revitive. You will see the difference. It works. It worked for me.
Get the most out of life with Revitive. Visit Revitive.com. That's REVITIVE.com. Or call
1-800-317-6641. That's 1-800-317-6641 today. Or visit Revitive.com. Order now.
This is a premium, hand-selected bacon-wrapped filet mignon that's aged for tenderness and trimmed to perfection. This is a necktie. What do you think Dad wants for Father's Day? Visit omahasteaks.com/TV to order the Dads Want Steak package today for just $99.99, and we'll include 8 additional burgers free. So get him this. Not this. This. Go to omahasteaks.com/TV today because Dad deserves it. Just a little Father's Day wisdom from Omaha Steaks.
Sure, you'll teach her how to drive a car. Then use Greenlight to power her independence with crash detection with 911 dispatch, family location sharing, and emergency SOS alerts. Invest in your best investment with Greenlight.
I don't get paid until next week.
I got you. I'm Dave, and I can spot you up to $500 of your future money instantly.
Up to $500 instantly? What else is in my future?
A new couch. Only!
Get up to $500 instantly with Dave.
A Georgia woman is talking about her near-death experience, which was all captured on camera. In an interview, Tanasha Brown said that she has nightmares about last month's crash Deputies' body camera footage capturing Bruton's car flying right into the air after she ran into the ramp of a parked tow truck. Now, according to police, the car soared 120 feet before landing upside down, as you could see right there. It did hit another vehicle. Now, Bruton has said that she had to have several surgeries. She is just grateful to be alive. And nerves got the best of a 63-year-old woman attempting to pass her driving test in Argentina. Take a look at this. Officials say the woman's car flipped to its side after hitting several curbs and a lamppost, as you can see right there. Yikes. Rescue crews responding to the crash. They found her trapped inside her vehicle and they were able to free her. Authorities took her to the hospital. She had minor injuries. And body camera footage capturing the moment a Florida deputy rescued a family of 6 after their minivan flipped on its side.
I'm gonna come get you, okay?
I don't know.
I can't unbuckle. I'm gonna come get you, okay? It's all right. Come here.
Hillsborough County Sergeant Donnie Reiser came across the overturned minivan and found a mother and her children trapped inside. He then removed his equipment and he was able to pull each person out of the vehicle. The sheriff applauded Reiser's brave actions, calling it, quote, nothing short of extraordinary. Well done. We have much more coverage to come in your next hour of Scripps News Live. I'm Veronica Cruz. Great to see you today. Don't go anywhere because we are back after a short break.
Do you spend hours maintaining your gutters? Save that time with LeafGuard's maintenance-free system. Call 1-833-2-GUTTERS. Mesh filters sit on top of your gutters, building up debris and eventually clogging. Then they need to be cleaned too. Honestly, your home should have been built with LeafGuard gutters. LeafGuard's wraparound hood deflects debris and keeps water away from your home. The one-piece seamless system is strong, 20% thicker than average and built to last. Plus, LeafGuard is guaranteed to never clog for as long as you own your home. Right now, get a complete LeafGuard system for only $99 down, $99 a month, and $99 installation. You'll also receive a $100 Visa gift card with a free gutter inspection and in-home estimate. Damage from clogged gutters can cost you thousands. Never worry about clogged gutters again. Don't wait, you've still got time. Call 1-833-2-GUTTERS today. That's 1-833-2-GUTTERS.
There's a lot to watch on TV these days. Problem is, most streaming options are incredibly pricey, and you'll end up paying for the local channels you can get for free. Luckily, there's a solution. Sling is only $40 a month, and you get awesome stuff like sports, news, and today's hottest TV for half of what the other guys cost. If you already get free locals with an antenna, now you can easily add the channels you're missing with Sling. It's the TV you love for a price you'll love. Visit sling.com/antenna to learn more.
Surprise Dad this Father's Day with something new. Fracture turns your images into more than a picture. Your photos are custom printed directly on glass to achieve brilliant color and clarity. Visit tryfracture.com and save up to 30% off.
This is a paid advertisement for legal services. If you've been diagnosed with mesothelioma, call now. Billions have been set aside for victims. You may be entitled to compensation. Call now, 1-800-712-3700. That's 1-800-712-3700.
Get customizable furniture at joybird.com that complements your art, your green thumb, or just you. Plus, buy now and pay over time with the firm at joybird.com.
Still tying your shoes? It's 2023. Hands-free shoes are the next big thing. No more hands, tying, pulling, heel crushing. And once they're on, they stay on. Don't take my word for it. They have over 13,000 five-star reviews, free shipping, free returns, and a 30-day money-back guarantee. A style or color for every personality. Time to step up your shoe game and step into Kizik's. Get 15% off today at kizik.com/TV.
We're Carvana. We've created a brand new way for you to sell your car. Go to Carvana, answer a few questions, and our techno wizardry calculates your car's value and gives you a real offer in seconds. We'll come to you, pay you on the spot, then pick up your car. That's it. At Carvana.
When Lila was ready to sell her ring, she sent it to Worthy, where they took care of everything and auctioned it on her terms. Then, Worthy sent Lila her money. You're worthy of more. Get started at worthy.com.
Do you have an idea for a story you would like to see or a comment on our coverage you want to share? We want to hear from you. Call our Scripps News viewer hotline at 833-4SCRIPPS. That's 833-4SCRIPPS.
Hey there, thank you so much for staying with us on this Thursday afternoon. Good to see you. It is now 1 p.m. in the East and 10 a.m. out West. I'm Veronica Cruz. Welcome back to Scripps News Live. So the former Marine who was arrested in the death of a man on a New York City subway has now been indicted. A Manhattan grand jury indicted Daniel Penny yesterday on manslaughter charges in the death of Jordan Neely. Perry put Neely in a chokehold on May 1st after he began shouting at passengers about being hungry and not caring if he died. Let's get you right out to Justice correspondent Jamal Andres, who's been tracking the story for us from the beginning. And Jamal, I understand that this indictment is sealed, but what more can you tell us about what comes next in this case?
Yeah, Veronica. Well, look, hopefully we hear from Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg on this, because as you mentioned, this case, this indictment has been under seal, so we don't know the details of exactly what his office is alleging here. Even up to this point, we're only confirming that this has occurred. This vote by the grand jury has occurred via a statement from New York Mayor Eric Adams, who said, "quote I have the utmost faith in the judicial process, and now that the grand jury has indicted Daniel Penny, a trial and justice can move forward." In New York, a grand jury has to affirm the charges brought by the district attorney, in this case Alvin Bragg. But there's an old saying: a prosecutor can get a grand jury to indict a ham sandwich, essentially making the point that even if you have someone on who is facing charges, this is not a trial, and there is no defense present during these proceedings to present the other side of the argument, essentially saying that this is more of a rubber stamp than a real trial or any sort of statement on Daniel Penny's guilt or innocence. But as you mentioned, this incident took place back on May 1st, but the backlash and outrage on both sides has continued since then. You know, hundreds protested in New York City streets and clashed with police over Jordan Neely's death. We saw Reverend Al Sharpton deliver the eulogy at Jordan Neely's funeral. Meanwhile, several presidential candidates have jumped to Daniel Penny's defense. We've heard from Donald Trump, Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, all speaking on behalf of Daniel Penny, and a defense fund on Penny's behalf, has raised upwards of $2.8 million so far. Just this week, though, Penny finally spoke out on his own behalf. And here's a bit of what he had to say. Listen.
The reason why there was no video at the start of the altercation was because people were too afraid getting away from him. And the videos didn't start until they saw that situation was under control. I knew I had to act, and I acted in a way that would protect the other passengers, protect myself, and protect Mr. Neely. I used this hold to restrain him, and I did this by leaving my hand on top of his head to control his body. You can see in the video there's a clear rise and fall of his chest, indicating that he was still breathing.
Now, he went on to say a few things. One, he says this has nothing to do with race. He said he didn't see a black man threatening passengers. He just saw a man threatening passengers. And as you heard in the video, said he believed he had to act. He also said that he held him down for much shorter than has been reported by some. The idea that there were some reports he'd held him down for 15 minutes at a time. And he says it was much, much less than that, somewhere in the range of 3 to 5 minutes. And he also said, again, alluding to some of the race-based allegations in this case, that several people of color were on the train and thanked him for his action. So again, one of those cases that really animates both sides of the issue. One thing I want to mention from a legal perspective, though, unlike some of the cases we've seen that involve police officers, someone like Eric Garner, for example, this is a civilian who does not necessarily enjoy the same legal protections that police officers have in a case like this. And so we'll have to see exactly what comes out in this trial and what witnesses have to say under oath about Jordan Neely's actions. But again, this is a civilian, more in the sense of someone like Kyle Rittenhouse or what we saw in Georgia with Ahmaud Arbery. And they don't have the exact same legal protections that a law enforcement officer would who was trying to subdue a threat.
I know. This incident has also raised the issue around the awareness needed for more access to mental health care. So we'll have to see if anything comes out of that on this front. Jamal Andrews reporting for us. Jamal, thank you so much for the update. We appreciate it. I want to get you now to another update. The suspect in a deadly shooting at an LGBTQ nightclub in Colorado expected to plead guilty to murder and hate crime charges. It's all according to survivors of the shooting who spoke to the Associated Press about the plea deal. And it would make sure the suspect serves at least a life sentence. Authorities say the suspect walked into Club Q in Colorado Springs in November, started shooting randomly. 5 people were killed, 17 others injured. That suspect facing more than 300 state charges right now. The DOJ is still considering whether to file federal hate crime charges. And developing right now, flags flying at half-staff in Greece a day after a fishing boat carrying migrants sank off the coast. At least 78 people were killed in what has been called the worst accident of its kind so far. Greece declared 3 days of mourning as hundreds are still missing, and hope for survivors begins to dim. So far, 104 passengers have been rescued. But the UN Migration Agency is estimating between 700 and 750 people were on board based on interviews with survivors. That fishing boat was traveling from Libya to Italy when it capsized close to the deepest part of the Mediterranean Sea. So the location could make finding that vessel even more difficult. Rome correspondent Giles Gibson has the very latest on the search and the push to prevent something like this from ever happening again.
As Greece went into a period of national mourning, search and rescue teams were still hunting for survivors out at sea. Now, hundreds of people were believed to have been below decks when this ship capsized and then sank. And of course, the concern is that it just would have been virtually impossible for people to make their way up to the deck when this boat was sinking. And as with any search and rescue operation, every single hour that ticks by, the chances of finding somebody alive out in the open sea just get smaller and smaller. Meanwhile, Greek authorities are saying that assistance from the Coast Guard was actually declined on several occasions by this boat because it was trying to reach Italy instead. The Greek government has in the past been accused of so-called pushbacks or pushing migrants away from Greek territory, although the government in Athens has consistently said that its policies are tough but fair. This latest tragedy has also sparked calls once again for the EU to set up safe and legal routes to claim asylum here in the European Union. We did have last week EU ministers agreeing a deal in principle in Luxembourg to overhaul the way that asylum applications are processed by different countries and also how to share the burden of people waiting to hear back about their asylum claims within the EU. But that deal, it still needs to be looked at by the European Parliament, so it could be many months before it becomes law. And of course, in the meantime, people will still be taking the risk of crossing the Mediterranean Sea. According to the United Nations, more than 70,000 people have arrived in Europe by boat so far this year. Giles Gibson, Scripps News, Rome.
A scathing 77-page report says former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson may have deliberately misled the House of Commons about his violations on COVID restrictions. Johnson criticized the investigation during a trip to the United States late last month.
This whole thing is a load of nonsense from beginning to end, and we've made that clear in the statements that I've issued.
London correspondent Julie Chapman has the latest on the investigation of what critics have been calling Partygate.
This long-awaited report from the Privileges Committee was not about whether Boris Johnson attended social gatherings during COVID-19 lockdowns. He's already admitted to that and been fined by police. This was all about whether or not he lied about it in Parliament and when he was giving evidence to the Privileges Committee during their inquiry. And the findings are pretty scathing. The members of this committee, most of whom are Conservative MPs like Boris Johnson, they found that not only did he deliberately mislead Parliament and the committee, he did so repeatedly throughout this process. It found that he also breached the confidence of the Privileges Committee when he resigned last week, leaking some of the details that have come out eventually today. They said that he misled Parliament when he said that guidance had been followed, the COVID-19 guidance. It said that was incorrect, and it also found that he misled Parliament when he failed to tell Parliament about breaches of guidance. Now, the committee was adamant that this was not a technical matter. This was about the very foundations of British democracy, saying that democracy depends on members of Parliament and members of the public being able to trust the word of ministers, none more so than the Prime Minister itself. But what can the committee do about this? Well, Boris Johnson has already resigned, so the recommendation that he be suspended from Parliament for 90 days, a really unprecedented sanction, is basically irrelevant, although very much damning. But now he has already voluntarily resigned in advance of the publication of this report. He's giving up his seat in Parliament. But the committee has also recommended that he not be given a parliamentary pass as a former MP. He's entitled to that. The suggestion is he shouldn't be going forward. But is this the end of Boris Johnson? He has made many political comebacks before. Although he has stepped down as a member of Parliament, he may yet try to resurrect his political career. Julia Chapman, Scripps News, London.
The Washington Post says last fall, former President Trump rejected a suggestion to settle the Justice Department's classified documents case. One of the president's attorneys, Christopher Kise, made this proposal, and the goal was to persuade Attorney General Merrick Garland not to prosecute Trump over the documents. According to the Washington Post, the former president chose to side with other lawyers who advocated a more combative approach. And Garland is saying that he has faith in the integrity of the classified documents investigation. It's his first public comment since former President Trump was indicted last Thursday. The Attorney General has been saying Special Counsel Jack Smith is an example of his department's commitment to independence and accountability.
Mr. Smith is a veteran career prosecutor. He has assembled a group of experienced and talented prosecutors and agents who share his commitment to integrity and the rule of law.
And developing now, the Supreme Court rejecting a challenge to the 1978 Indian Child Welfare Act, the law giving preference to Native American families who want to foster or adopt Native American children. It was put into place to address concerns about a high number of Native children being displaced from their homes by public welfare and private adoption agencies. A white couple from Fort Worth, Texas, tried to challenge the law, arguing that it violated the Constitution because it's based on race. But the court, in a 7-2 majority, upheld it, with only Justices Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito dissenting. Coming up next on Scripps News Live, hidden fees can bust your budget. What the White House is now doing to make them more transparent. Also, being a dad in 2023 is a challenge, and it's even more for one of the fathers in crisis. Also, for many, mental health is a taboo.
Men and fathers tend to live with their mental health crises in silence.
What an expert is saying right now needs to be done so more dads seek help. And don't forget, right here, you can always count on Scripps News for all of your headlines throughout the primetime hours as well, beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern.
Welcome to the place where people go to learn about their Medicare options before they're on Medicare.
Come on in. You're turning 65 soon?
Yeah.
And you're retiring at 67?
That's the plan.
Well, you've come to the right place.
Now's the time to plan ahead. Learn about an AARP Medicare Supplement Insurance Plan from United Healthcare, and how a plan like this helps you take charge of your healthcare with lower out-of-pocket costs. Here's why. Medicare alone doesn't pay for everything. Your deductibles and copays could add up to hundreds, even thousands of dollars a year.
Everyone's a little surprised to learn that one.
Adding a Medicare supplement plan helps pay some of what Medicare doesn't. And that could mean fewer surprises and more predictable out-of-pocket costs. Call United Healthcare and ask for your free decision guide. Or talk with a licensed insurance agent or producer to learn more about plan benefits, options, and rates. Medicare supplement plans let you choose any doctor, any specialist, anywhere in the U.S. who accepts Medicare patients. You don't have to deal with any networks or referrals. This kind of plan also goes with you anywhere you travel in the country. If you're turning 65 soon or over 65 and planning to retire, Find out more about the only Medicare supplement plans endorsed by AARP.
Thumbs up to that.
Remember, the time to prepare is before you go on Medicare.
Don't wait. Get started today.
Take charge of your health care. Call United Healthcare for your free decision guide and learn more about lowering your out-of-pocket Medicare costs and seeing any doctor who accepts Medicare patients.
Oh, and happy birthday or retirement in advance.
Attention all business owners. If you had W-2 employees during the COVID-19 pandemic, you may be entitled to up to $26,000 per employee with the Employee Retention Tax Credit. The deadline to file your claims is approaching. Call now to see if your business qualifies. This approved payroll tax refund program from the U.S. Treasury Department is set up to reward business owners who kept employees on payroll during the pandemic. There is no upfront cost to see if your company is eligible. Plus, if you don't receive a refund, you pay nothing. You want a trusted partner who understands the IRS guidelines. ERC advisors are standing by to help your business claim your COVID refund. You may be entitled to up to $26,000 per employee. This quick and easy call can get your business the money it deserves. Don't miss the deadline to file your claims. Just call 800-259-3916. That's 800-259-3916.
The Federal Reserve's decision to press pause on an interest rate hike this month, sparking a rally on Wall Street right now. Take a look at these numbers. The Dow up more than 300 points. It's up about 344 points right now. S&P also in the green as well, up 31 points. And the NASDAQ is up 66 points right now as investors breathe a sigh of relief after the Fed chose to pause rate hikes. We're going to keep an eye on the markets for you. So President Biden has declared war on hidden junk fees, and we've all seen them. They are those hidden fees that cost customers like you extra money on things like concert tickets and maybe lodging when you travel. White House correspondent Haley Bull fills us in on the details.
President Biden has prioritized cracking down on junk fees, and today that effort continues. He's expected to meet with travel and ticket companies at the White House with a focus on transparent pricing. And there are several updates expected out of this meeting. The White House says Live Nation will commit to upfront all-in pricing. Ticketmaster will give the option to see all-in pricing. SeatGeek will make it easier to shop with all-in prices. And Airbnb already has a tool. This really builds on Biden's effort to crack down on junk fees through more transparent pricing, proposed regulations, and calls for Congress to act, going back to calls made in Biden's State of the Union address.
The president has long believed that we've got to do everything we can to eliminate what are called junk fees, right? These hidden fees that make our markets not work efficiently and that really add cost for consumers. So the president has taken a whole of government approach to doing everything we can to eliminate junk fees across industries.
Previously, the administration called to stop fees for families seating on airlines, crack down on bank junk fees, proposed a rule to cut credit card late fees, and proposed a rule to require airlines to cover the costs when they're responsible for flight disruptions. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's proposals have drawn some pushback from financial trade groups, but the actions represent part of Biden's bigger economic plan to focus on lowering costs in Americans' day-to-day lives. And notably, the economy has been a top issue for voters, especially amid inflation. The National Economic Council director states, quote, President Biden has been working to lower costs for hardworking families by bringing down inflation, capping insulin prices for seniors, and eliminating hidden junk fees. More companies are heeding the president's call so that Americans know what they're paying for up front and can save money as a result. Now, President Biden is expected to speak on this issue later this afternoon, and we will certainly be following those updates. Haley Bull, Scripps News, Washington.
I've got some more money news right here. For the first time in 2 decades, Bud Light has fallen to second in U.S. retail sales last month. It's apparently due to fallout from Bud Light sending a commemorative can to transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney. While critics vowed to boycott Bud Light, supporters of Mulvaney complained that Bud Light didn't do enough to support her. The new #1 is Modelo Especial, made by Anheuser-Busch, which also makes Bud Light. So there you go. We have some mixed reaction pouring in after the Southern Baptist Convention upheld its decision to expel 2 churches because they have women pastors. Delegates rejecting an appeal yesterday to reinstate Fern Creek Baptist in Louisville, Kentucky, and California megachurch Saddleback. According to the SBC's statement of faith, only qualified men can serve as pastors. Author Nicole Davis argues that women have the same capabilities as men to lead, and she wrote the book, Eve, Where Are You?, which examines bias practices in the Christian church. Here's what she had to say earlier on Morning Rush.
Yeah, I think it's heartbreaking, and it's unfortunate for the people, especially the women who worship in those congregations. When you have competent women leaders who believe they are called to pastor and are spiritually sensitive to God's guidance, they should be able to care for God's people in any leadership role. And since God created us male and female to co-reign and co-rule, having dominion over every living thing together, not over each other, men and women should operate in unity and harmony instead of disunity and infighting. And I hope that this misstep in no way makes women feel disempowered. Their true identity is in God and not determined by what a man or a woman believes about her. God has gifted women to lead, and this decision by the SBC does not change that. Additionally, I think it's hypocritical from the standpoint that women are often called upon to step into many leadership positions when there are no capable men to do it. And it's opportunistic and it's disrespectful. I believe if the SBC doesn't want women to lead, women should remove their financial support of such churches, and that stands true for any denomination that feels the same way as the SBC.
And I'm glad you kind of hit on that point, because that was my next question. If I'm a woman in this organization, in this particular group, and I see this action, and obviously,
disagree, and there may be some that agree.
I'm sure there are some that agree, but if I disagree, or I'm offended or insulted or feeling ostracized by it, what are my options? These are people of deep faith, so they don't necessarily leave the church, but what can they do to manifest their displeasure?
Well, actually, they are leaving, and they're leaving the denominations. They're leaving the denominations, and they're leaving the church altogether, because this undervaluing and this marginalization that's happening is really making women feel disempowered. And women who know they're called, they want to feel like they are able to please God and support Him in the work that they do. And that's true of women in every generation. They want to understand who they are according to God's purpose for their lives. So when you think about it, self-actualization is important to women just as much as it is to men. And as human beings, women have a basic need to know they can do or be anything they want, even pastor.
So other religions and other sects of Christianity have adapted to modern society, and they seem to be doing okay. So what is holding back Southern Baptists, which are known to be more conservative?
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with their ability to interpret the original biblical text. And it's not just Southern Baptists that has this problem. It's in a lot of different denominations. And it's their understanding or lack thereof of the Greek and the Hebrew. And so when churches don't have a firm grasp on that, they're left to interpret the Bible however they want. And that's what we're seeing.
And on that point, before we let you go, whether it is slavery, whether it is the gay community, whether it is women, people throughout history have used religion to justify discrimination. Help me understand how you reconcile that with love thy neighbor.
Well, that's a great question. And it is a question that we need to ask them. Is this what love looks like? Do you believe you are representing the cause of Jesus Christ, who exemplified what love looked like, what it looked like to embrace the disenfranchised and to be supportive and empowering of all those who want to serve? He needs to be our example. And I think the scriptures that we have aligned with that supports this type of fracture that's happening in the church are scriptures that are showing women that they're less than, and that is not true. And I think we put ourselves in a place where if we believe, we're arrogant enough to believe that we have the full understanding of God's intent for an entire gender, then there's nowhere good that can go.
And that was author Nicole Davis there on Morning Rush earlier. In Washington, President Biden marking the 11th anniversary of the DACA program, the measure allowing the children of immigrants to live, work, and attend school in the United States. 11 years later, the number of so-called dreamers in the U.S. is now more than 800,000. However, immigration reform bills have stalled in Congress, and a Texas court case has challenged its legality. And in Los Angeles, the mayor is calling Texas Governor Greg Abbott's decision to send a busload of migrants to her city a, quote, despicable stunt. More than 36 migrants, mostly from Central America, were dropped off at Union Station in Los Angeles yesterday. Now, the city says it's offering them assistance at a Catholic church in downtown Los Angeles. In the meantime, Governor Abbott took to Twitter to confirm that he has sent those migrants to California, saying that Texas's border towns are, quote, overrun with migrants. Abbott says that he chose LA because of the city's, quote, self-declared sanctuary status. In Hollywood, prosecutors are saying that the weapons supervisor on the Rust film might have been hung over when the cinematographer was shot and killed. Hannah Gutierrez-Reed loaded the live bullet in the gun that killed Helena Hutchins. Witnesses on set told investigators that they saw Gutierrez-Reed, quote, drinking heavily and smoking marijuana in the evening during the shooting of Rust. Gutierrez-Reed has pleaded not guilty to an involuntary manslaughter charge. Coming up next, leaders in Flint, Michigan facing new criticism. Our investigative team returning to Flint to find out if the city is making good on its promise to residents who begged for help. Also, we're sharing tips to keep your children safe while splashing in the water this summer.
The light pinks, the light blues, and the whites almost completely disappear.
Why experts say keeping your kids alive in the water could all come down to the color of their swimsuit. We'll explain. Also, we'd like to hear from you. Give us a call on our Scripps News Viewer Hotline toll free. That number is 1-833-4-SCRIPPS. Feel free to share your comments and your story ideas. We'll be right back.
Hi friends, Richard Karn here. Now I'm known as the guy who can fix just about anything, but the technology in most appliances requires very special training to fix. My point is, even I know when I've met my match, and that's why my family has Choice Home Warranty. So we won't get stuck with high-priced repairs.
Choice Home Warranty covers over 25 major home systems and appliances. That's your AC, heating, plumbing, kitchen and laundry appliances, and so much more.
Imagine for less than a cup of coffee a day, Choice Home Warranty can help protect you from expensive major system and appliance breakdowns that your homeowner's insurance doesn't cover. But you have to call now before it's too late.
Every homeowner should have Choice Home Warranty. Your homeowner's insurance is not going to cover your appliances.
Washing machine, dryer, refrigerator, air condition. If I had any issues arise, they were able to take care of it immediately.
Now, homeowner's insurance won't protect you when your home's major systems and appliances break down due to normal wear and tear. But Choice Home Warranty will. They can help cover repairs and replacements.
Choice Home Warranty is the best warranty we've ever used. It would save you so much money in the long run.
Hey, I'm not the only one raving about Choice Home Warranty. They were named a Best Home Warranty Company and Best Claim Service by U.S. News 360 Reviews.
Call Choice Home Warranty now and get access to a nationwide network of over 15,000 technicians and the latest appointment setting technology so you'll know when they're on their way.
If I have an issue with an appliance or something around the house, I just call up Choice Home Warranty and I don't have to worry about that.
So, do what this old DIYer did and call Choice Home Warranty now before something breaks down. Tell them I sent you and get your first month free.
Call Choice Home Warranty before it's too late and get protection for your heating, AC, plumbing, kitchen and laundry appliances, and more. Call for your free quote today. Call in the next 5 minutes and get your first month free. 800-360-4534. 800-360-4534.
Sunday nights on In Real Life.
For the baby?
Yeah.
Scripps News journalists take you off the grid.
We were just a bunch of kids with a camera.
Stunts have become more specialized.
And to the heart of the story.
When the pandemic hit, the American dream kind of changed.
There were a lot of warning signs. They just didn't care.
In Real Life, Sunday at 8, 7 Central, only on Scripps News.
Hey there, welcome back to Scripps News Live. Thank you so much for sticking with us on this Thursday. I'm Veronica Cruz. Let's get you caught up on some of the stories right now making news. In Greece, hope is fading to find survivors from a boat filled with migrants that capsized. Hundreds of people are still missing. At least 78 have been confirmed dead. The fishing boat was traveling from Libya to Italy, and more than 700 people may have been on board. 104 have been rescued. The husband of one woman who is missing says that she paid $5,000 to smugglers to get on board that ship. The Supreme Court upholding the 1978 Indian Child Welfare Act, that law giving preference to Native American families who want to foster or adopt Native American children. A white couple from Texas challenging the law. They claimed it violated the Constitution by focusing on race. The court rejected the challenge 7-2 with Justices Thomas and Alito dissenting. A teacher in Virginia who was shot by one of her students is pushing back on claims that she resigned. 26-year-old Abigail Zwerner says the Newport News School District fired her. But the district reportedly has an email from Zwerner in which she wrote, quote, "I wish to resign." Zwerner taught first grade in Newport News until January when her 6-year-old student brought a gun to class and shot her. Now to an investigation that we first brought you last month about the Flint water crisis. It still hasn't been resolved after 9 long years. Potential health hazards in the city's drinking water have now been prompting residents, the ACLU, and the Natural Resources Defense Council to ask a federal judge to hold the city and its mayor in contempt of court. Scripps News senior national investigative correspondent Mark Greenblatt has more for us.
The ACLU and the Natural Resources Defense Council are now citing our Scripps News investigation from this May as evidence as they ask a federal judge to install sanctions against the city of Flint and its mayor after they've missed deadline after deadline after court deadline.
Deadlines were set and deadlines were missed. I admit to that, right? Some could be contributed to me and some could be contributed to other pieces, right?
Those words by Flint Mayor Sheldon Neely were aired in a Scripps News investigation in May, and some of them are now being cited in court documents asking a federal judge to find the city and its mayor in contempt of court after they say the city missed yet another deadline. The court motion also asks the judge to issue a daily fine of $500 paid jointly by the city and its mayor in his official capacity until Flint complies with its court-ordered deadlines to identify the full scope of its remaining work to replace lead drinking water pipes across the city. Scripps News reported this past May how nearly a decade after the Flint water crisis began, thousands of residents may still need their drinking water pipes inspected for toxic lead and other health hazards.
So what's the number overall that needs to still be completed?
Well, those numbers are elusive to say. I don't want to be nailed down to actually giving a particular number.
In an April interview with Scripps News, Flint Mayor Sheldon Neely, who took over the city 3.5 years ago, repeatedly declined to share how many homes still need to be inspected for potentially toxic water pipes.
You want me to give you a number?
1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000.
I give you percentages. More than 90% of this process has been completed.
More than 90% complete is also exactly where the city said it stood in this press release that we found from August of 2020, nearly 3 years ago. Our own Scripps News analysis showed the work on Flint's pipes in recent years has slowed to a crawl.
Now that we're getting down to the last few lines, they're very difficult to find those lines because we're so close to the finishing point.
But we told Neely about 7 different Flint residents who we discovered had repeatedly contacted the city, but are still waiting to get contractors out to their homes after all these years, including Adia McCullough. She told us that her 7-year-old son, Robbie, has had to drink bottled water his entire life while they wait for the city to dig underground and inspect their water lines.
They came and spray painted the pipeline, and they put little flags, and then they left and they never did the work. It feels like you don't matter. Feels like the world just keeps going on, and you keep going on. But like, everyone here is not important enough.
This woman's name is Adia.
After we told the mayor about Adia and gave the city her address and phone number in late April, he pledged to do something about it.
Now I know her name. Now that you're bringing it to me, I will send a team out.
We asked the mayor how long residents like Adia should have to wait for a team to assess their homes.
Going forward from today, how long should they have to wait before someone from the city either shows up at their house or actually starts excavation?
But once that call comes in and then we catalog that call, I would assume no more than 2 weeks before they can see some level of action. And thank you on behalf of Adina that you brought to our attention. And definitely we will be reaching out to her.
But more than a month later, we went back to Flint and visited Adia on her front porch.
No action still.
Has the city called you to set up an appointment?
No.
You've seen no action?
None.
And as Flint residents like Adia remain in limbo, we found another issue. On our visit this past April, the main phone line the city tells residents to use to call to get the lead out was not working.
The user's mailbox is not available at this time. Thank you. Goodbye.
When we told the city, a spokesperson promised a permanent fix. But a month later, when we sat with Tanya Burns, the Flint City Council member who represents Adia McCullough's neighborhood, we watched what happened when she tried to call.
The user's mailbox is not available at this time.
This is the one line. If no other line works at City Hall, that line should be working. There's no excuse for that. There's none.
Councilmember Burns told us she's become skeptical of the mayor's ability to get the job done and worries his leadership is alienating key members of the Flint city government, including the Department of Public Works, or DPW, which oversees the water system.
There's a lot of water pipes that need to get looked at in this city. Does the city have someone in charge of the Department of Public Works?
We currently do not have a DPW director.
What happened to him?
He quit. He left March 17th.
Mayor Neely has yet to fill that position. The mayor initially offered a follow-up interview with Scripps News, but after we raised what we'd learned since our last visit, a spokesperson emailed a statement instead, writing, "The city is trying to hire a new public works director and is inquiring as to why the phone line is not working consistently." The city also committed to finishing all of its remaining work by the latest court-ordered deadline of August 1st. Meanwhile, residents like Adia McCullough continue to use bottled water each day as her skepticism about more promises coming from the city grows.
Honestly, I don't even have words for it anymore. Someone that's comfortable with letting people live like this, they're not going to hear someone like me anyway. Their lives are okay, they're succeeding, they're safe. What about everybody else?
Now, the city responded in court to that attempt to hold the city and the mayor in contempt of court, saying that this request is wholly without merit, and they said that it never should have singled out the mayor, Sheldon Neely. Also, we went back to Sheldon Neely again to tell him about Adia McCullough's case, and I can tell you that as of right now, in a major twist, Ms. McCullough is telling us that this week she's finally seen a contractor show up on her door ready to inspect her drinking water pipes. Mark Greenblatt, Scripps News in Washington.
Okay, mark your calendars because Father's Day is this Sunday. And a new study out is shining a light on dads and their mental health. National correspondent Matt Pearl has more.
This story is about silence. It's about a subject that has reached the federal government yet eludes conversation in most houses. It's about a subject that often isolates those affected, yet spreads across millions every year because it affects dads.
Men and fathers tend to live with their mental health crises in silence, and they don't talk about it and they tend to internalize it, and then it can exacerbate.
Derek Gordon teaches psychiatry at the Yale University School of Medicine. He focuses on the mental health of men, and specifically fathers. He's speaking of a silent crisis, the ways in which men, and specifically fathers, live with anxiety and depression and don't seek help.
So there are multiple ways that men sometimes are missed by the systems that they interact with. Oftentimes, we don't engage and think about the ways in which mental health might be gendered.
Let's start with men as a whole. A recent CDC survey found 26% of adult women had received mental health care in the past year. Men, just 15%. A previous study found that of men who had daily feelings of anxiety or depression, barely 2 out of 5 sought treatment. But what about when men have kids?
We talk about postpartum depression. There's some burgeoning research that shows that men too experience a postpartum depression.
Postpartum depression hits some dads. A notable rise in stress upon welcoming a child hits most dads. More than 100 countries have adopted paid paternity leave, but not America. And as the height of the COVID-19 pandemic moves further away, recent studies show more companies dropping paid leave for moms and dads.
I feel as if there needs to be a whole reshaping in the way in which we think about maternity and paternity leave, and a reframing of that leave from a disability conversation to one of a strengths conversation.
The data says fathers want to spend more time with their families, but the data also says there's stigma against sacrificing their careers, with the same roots as the stigma that keeps many from seeking help. It comes back to silence. It's why this month, Dr. Gordon was one of 24 speakers at a virtual event funded by the federal government. It was called Giving Hope, Serving and Supporting Fathers with Mental Health Challenges. The goal, expanding this critical conversation beyond workshops and universities into the spaces of silence.
We also have to think about what the policies are that drive our actions and drive our behaviors, so that if we say we want to support family, that we're doing so in a way that actually values all members of the family, however that family is constructed.
I'm Matt Pearl.
And a quick reminder right here as we head to break, you can always give us a follow at Scripps News on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and on TikTok. Scripps News Live continues after this.
Mom, we're so glad you're feeling better. You gave us such a scare.
I know, honey. Me too. But I want you to know I'm at peace with my homegoing when my time is up. And did I also tell you that I got coverage for my funeral so you and your brother would not have to worry about expenses?
I didn't know you were saving money for your final expenses.
I haven't. I called Open Care, and with one phone call, I was eligible for $30,000 for my funeral and final expenses.
That's wonderful, Mom, but how did you pass your medical exam with your health condition?
Oh, that's the best part. No medical exam is needed.
That's right, and my rates can never increase, my benefits will not decrease, and my coverage will never be canceled.
Mom, I'm so glad you called.
You can now get up to $30,000 in life insurance coverage to help pay for your funeral and other final expenses. There's no medical exam, and you can be enrolled with just one phone call. Your rates can never be increased, your benefits can never be decreased, and your coverage can never be canceled. Call the number on your screen now and see how a final expense life insurance plan can help you. We don't want to leave our loved ones with debt. The cost of a funeral can be $8,000 or more. A final expense life insurance plan will pay up to $30,000, which can be used for funeral and other final expenses. Call 800-790-5695 now for your free information. You can now get up to $30,000 in life insurance coverage to help pay for your funeral and other final expenses. There's no medical exam, and you can be enrolled with just one phone call. Your rates can never be increased, your benefits can never be decreased, and your coverage can never be canceled. Call the number on your screen now and see how a final expense life insurance plan can help you. There's no obligation. Call 800-790-5695. That's 800-790-5695.
This is a premium hand-selected bacon wrap filet mignon that's aged for tenderness and trimmed to perfection. This is a necktie. What do you think Dad wants for Father's Day? Visit omahasteaks.com/TV to order the Dads Want Steak package today for just $99.99, and we'll include 8 additional burgers free. So get him this. Not this. This. Go to omahasteaks.com/TV today because Dad deserves it. Just a little Father's Day wisdom from Omaha Steaks.
Sure, you should teach him to ride a bike. Then use Greenlight and teach him how to invest in bikes. Teach him to be smart about money, and he'll go far.
Super far! Oh, hey, Mom!
Navigate the world of money together. Invest in your best investment. Greenlight.
I can't afford this. Yeah, you can. Who are you? I'm you from the future, and I just got paid.
And I'm Dave. I can get you up to $500 of your future money now.
$500 instantly?
Instantly.
Awesome. And why are we naked?
Oh, after this, you're gonna check into a nudist resort.
They have free Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm, and volleyball.
Cool.
Download Dave and get up to $500 instantly. No interest, no credit check.
At Rue La La, feel like $1 million without paying the price. Seize the deals on top names before they're gone. Get in to never miss out. Shop RueLaLa.com today.
Well, lawmakers have proposed a number of anti-transgender bills. You may not know about transgender members in the U.S. military. Penny Kimmett with Scripps News Norfolk explains that their history dates back to the Civil War.
I joined as Amy Elizabeth Rolls. I was female when I joined the military in 2015.
Staff Sergeant William Allen Rolls is one of over 15,000 transgender people believed to be serving in the United States military.
I'm a UH-60 Alpha Lima Mike instructor. Right now I'm teaching the students here at Fort Eustis.
Is this your office?
This is pretty much my office.
According to research conducted by the Williams Institute, transgender men and women make up less than 1% of the armed forces. Yet, 21% of transgender people have served, a higher percentage than most demographics.
There's just a lot of understanding of the perspective of the underdog and understanding struggle that comes with being trans, and I think that lends itself towards service.
Leanne Withrow is the director for SPARTA, a national advocacy organization for transgender military members that formed following the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
All of a sudden, everybody says, oh, you can be LGBT in the military. Except you can't be LGBT. You can be L, G, or B, right? But they kind of left us behind.
According to the National Park Service, the U.S. military's first transgender member is believed to have joined in 1861. Albert Cashier, who was originally named Jenny Hodger, fought against the Confederacy during the Civil War. Nearly 200 years later, and the fate of transgender service members still remains uncertain. In 2016, Obama's administration lifted the ban on their ability to serve. But just 1 year later, the ban was reinstated and fear washed over the entire community.
I didn't know what my future was going to be like. I just wanted to serve my country. My chain of command pulled me in the office. That was the first thing they did. And they asked me, "Are you okay?" That meant the world to me.
It wasn't until just 2 years ago that the ban was lifted once again, allowing transgender people to serve openly for now.
What happens when the next administration comes in and maybe there's another ban in place? What happens? You know, that's the fear that we always live in.
A fear Sergeant Allen Rolls says he is able to live with due to the support from his fellow soldiers. The Black Hawk maintainer says he still has memories of his brother, Sergeant Major General Joshua Prescott, taking him to the gym so he could meet the Army's prior male standards for physical fitness. A few years later, and his brother pinned him to sergeant in Operation Atlantic Resolve.
I think that's my favorite memory in the military.
That moment coming only after hours of interviews and loads of paperwork to be officially considered male by the U.S. Army.
How hard is it to get that gender marker changed in the military?
It's hard. Multiple letters from mental health professionals, a treatment plan that's signed and approved, your new birth certificate.
But now, Sergeant Allen Rolls is able to serve openly and authentically, something he says only improves his ability to serve the United States and keep all of us safe.
When something's hindering you mentally, you're not able to focus on the mission.
Do you feel like being open about who you are has allowed you to be a better soldier?
Absolutely. I feel like I've changed a lot of minds and the perception of transgender soldiers. I hope I inspire someone to say, oh, okay, it's time for me to join the military.
And that was Penny Kimmett in Norfolk reporting for us. Coming up next on Scripps News Live, a trip to the public pool could quickly turn into tragedy, but what you wear might actually make a difference. We're going to explain after a quick break.
Attention all seniors. You can now get up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses, including your credit card debt, with no medical exam, starting at less than $1 a day.
Oh, honey, your dad and I can't stop talking about this baby that's coming.
We've also been thinking a lot about our future, and no matter what, we want to make sure we aren't leaving you and your family with any of our debts.
Just last week, we read that the price of a funeral can be $8,000 or more.
Wow, Jeff and I definitely would not have the money to pay for that.
And that's just a funeral. But you don't have to worry. We called, and with one phone call, we were eligible for $50,000 for our funeral and final expenses.
Well, that's great, but don't you need to take a medical exam to qualify? You and Mom have some health issues.
No, there's no medical exam, and we were able to get coverage right over the phone.
And our rates can never be increased, our benefits can never be decreased, and our coverage can never be canceled.
I'm so glad you made that call.
Don't leave loved ones with your debt. Call 800-339-7996 now and see if you qualify for up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses, starting at less than $1 a day. There's no medical exam, and you can be approved even if you have pre-existing health conditions. Your rates can never be increased, your benefits can never be decreased, and your coverage can never be canceled. There's no obligation. Call 800-339-7996 now. There's no paperwork, no hidden fees, and no waiting periods. And you can start coverage right over the phone, starting at less than $1 a day. Call 800-339-7996. That's 800-339-7996. 800-339-7996.
There's a lot to watch on TV these days. Problem is, most streaming options are incredibly pricey, and you'll end up paying for the local channels you can get for free. Luckily, there's a solution. Sling is only $40 a month, and you get awesome stuff like sports, news, and today's hottest TV for half of what the other guys cost. If you already get free locals with an antenna, now you can easily add the channels you're missing with Sling. It's the TV you love for a price you'll love. Visit sling.com/antenna to learn more.
We're Worthy. We get you more for your jewelry. You send us your item. We professionally clean and photograph it. Then we'll work with you to set your reserve price. And you get paid up to 3 times more. You're worthy of more. Get started at worthy.com.
The why is where curiosity is intentional. Because when you ask the why behind the news, the world opens up before your eyes. The Why, Saturday nights at 8, 7 Central, only on Scripps News.
A nationwide lifeguard shortage is forcing some pools to close or cut their hours. This is the 3rd summer in a row that communities across the country have struggled to hire enough lifeguards. The American Lifeguard Association estimates more than 300,000 public pools have been affected by the shortage, and it actually poses a higher risk for drownings and pool injuries. Believe it or not, families can help reduce these risks by making smarter choices about the swimsuits that they wear. Scripps News correspondent Dan Grossman explains why something as simple as pool attire can actually help save lives.
For many of us, the summer months are now here. That means boating, lakes, beaches, pools, childhood swim safety, a big focus for a lot of parents and families this year. We're at Akron Children's Hospital in Ohio. We're gonna go inside and they're gonna show us why something as simple as your child's swimsuit color can make a world of difference for their safety. Hi, nice to meet you. Thanks for taking the time and helping us organize this.
Heather.
Hi, Heather. I'm Dan.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Heather Trunka is the injury prevention supervisor at Akron Children's Hospital. She and Casey Newman were kind enough to take us to the rehabilitation pool to show us why swimsuit color is such a big deal when it comes to protecting your kids.
Drowning doesn't look like what it does on TV. Kids aren't splashing around, yelling for help. They're bobbing right at the surface level.
Drowning is the leading cause of death for children ages 1 to 4. It is also the second leading cause of unintentional injury death for children ages 5 to 14. A recent analysis from Akron Children's Hospital and Alive Solutions shows how spotting your kids quickly by choosing brightly colored swimsuit colors can save their life if they are in need of help.
When we choose a swimsuit colors, those bright colors are really what we want to focus on. So the light pinks, The light blues and the whites almost completely disappear.
Even white?
Even white especially is almost invisible in a pool.
This is the diagram from Alive Solutions. You can see the orange, yellows, and reds can be seen most easily when submerged only 18 inches underwater, but the whites and blues were not.
You want me to agitate?
Agitate.
Once you agitate the water as if kids were playing in it, it can make some of the swimsuits nearly invisible.
When we talk with parents about water safety when they're really little, is we want to make sure that they're always being watched. If a child goes missing, the first place we should look is a body of water, because kids are drawn to the water.
According to Hackensack Meridian Health in New Jersey, a child can drown in as little as 20 seconds, the time it takes to get up and get a towel. It's why keeping a close eye on your child whenever they're in the water is critical, and picking a swimsuit color that makes them the most visible only helps with keeping your kids safe. Dan Grossman, Scripps News, Akron, Ohio.
All right, take a look at this. Wow. JetBlue giving its planes a makeover. They have that larger logo and then that extended tail fin pattern, which wraps around the plane. It's also on the underside. The very first JetBlue plane with that new design and logo took off today. Pretty fancy. Thank you so much for spending some time with us here on Scripps News Live. I'm Veronica Cruz. I'll be back with you at 3 p.m. Eastern. In the meantime, we have much more coverage straight ahead in your next hour. In Washington, the Supreme Court siding with Native American families and rejecting a challenge to the 1978 Indian Child Welfare Act. When Scripps News Live comes back, we're going to break down that ruling for you. Don't go too far because Lauren Magarino is up next with that story and much more after a quick break.